Yeah, it almost seemed like there was a conference call or Zoom. Well, maybe conference call would have been better for Tubin, but there was a conference call where you guys, and they said from the top, hey, this is our shot. This is Trump's fault. This is not China's fault. This is Trump's fault. And then rather than saying, where else would this thing come from? We don't know it came from China. You can't say that. You can't say this. We're in Chinatown, Nancy Pelosi going out there and saying, well, look, this is offensive. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. Rob, you can't even find us on Twitter. It's a lot easier if you just go find us on Twitter. You'll find us like a 30-second clip. And suddenly everybody's like, no, it's irresponsible. You should have closed sooner. You should have closed this and you should have done that. Wait a minute. You were just in Chinatown saying don't close. Now you're saying I should have done this. It's as if everybody teamed up against this guy. And then that caused the American people, some of them, to say, look, we united during 9/11. What are we doing being divided here? And then 2 years later, we look at it and say he was right about China virus, about coronavirus. Oh, they were right. The New York Times comes out this week talking about a third of the COVID deaths was an exaggeration by the CDC. Nobody covers it. So the American people, wait a minute. Well, you should have taken a vaccine with the kids. No, you shouldn't have. Well, because the experts are saying this. Well, because science is saying this. Well, because military, 14 years, if you don't take the vaccine, you got to come out. Dude, you've only had a few months to test this thing out. No, you got to do it. So now all of that pendulum goes back to saying, listen, say what you want. You guys were wrong about Russia. You were wrong about China. You were wrong about COVID. You were wrong about the vaccine. You were wrong about this stuff. What are you going to say now to this guy? Now you want 37 indictments. You want to do all this other stuff to the guy. So what level of, for somebody that was on these, I don't expect to get the, 100% on what you would say to this. But what do you say to the people that said, dude, you guys all teamed up against this guy and everybody was like, sounded like a broken record. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. What do you say to that?
I have a different analysis.
I want to hear it.
There was no conference call. There was no groupthink. I don't know how many people had more access to people making major decisions during the pandemic than I did. And I was certainly never told what to say or what not to say. Trump got what he asked for with the media. You antagonize the media and call them fake and say a lot of things that are demonstrably false, you're going to get the teeth. He was antagonistic. These are all human beings. They're going to take it personally at some point, and they're going to come for you. And look, I think that's true in my case, in my brother's case, for sure. It was absolutely true in the president's case. The idea that people were against saying China virus is more complicated. We know it started in China. Now, what made us sick was actually the virus flying through Europe, right? The cases that came into the US, you had a few on the West Coast, but it was really these people coming in from Europe into New York, et cetera, making people sick here. Does that mean it didn't start in China? No, it means that that's not the only question. It's not the dispositive factor. Yes, it started in China, but it went flying through all of Europe also. So it's not as simple as just busting on China. Trump had it both ways with China, and he used China to deflect accountability for himself as president of the United States. I do not believe that if there was no COVID, Trump wins necessarily. I think it's hard to say that. I think if Trump had just stuck with his original take on COVID.
You don't think if there's no COVID, Trump doesn't win?
I don't know, because there are too many things. There are too many things that could happen.
But if you're playing an odds game and nothing else happens,
I don't listen.
Chris, the guy had economy was good, everything was good.
Too much shit happens that I didn't expect for me to say I know what would have happened. Okay, do I think you're 100% wrong? Of course not. Was COVID a problem for him? Absolutely. But if he had stuck with, I'm now a wartime president, this is my war, I'm doing PBE like nobody's business, I can't believe there's only one place in Maine that can make these swabs, I'm going to make them, that mentality, and brought the vaccine and right and wrong, which plays into my real frustration about COVID, other than people thinking I didn't have it, is here's the problem, okay? Trump did this wrong. Biden did this wrong. No one in a white coat should be doing political messaging for America. Fauci, any of the other white coats that they had up there from time to time, should not have been talking directly to America about where we are, how we are, what we're not. Science changes, okay? Science changes. Scientists change their opinions all the time on the basis of information. We believe you get this by doing this, clean everything 1,000,000 times. Oh, turns out it's aerosolized. Forget about this. Don't worry about it. Remember what I said about don't wear a mask? You'll probably make yourself sick because you're touching. No, it's aerosolized. You need the masks. In science, makes perfect sense. When you, God forbid, you have somebody who's sick in your family and they start and they think, oh, we think it's pneumonia. Ooh, turns out it's pleurisy. You don't say, the hell is wrong with you? I'm going to a new doctor. It's, oh, so you found new information and changed it. Okay, that doesn't work in politics. In politics, you change your position, you're losing, you're weak.
You're a flip-flopper.
That's why they stick with things even when it doesn't make sense anymore. I remember a conversation I'll never forget with Roger Ailes. He's thinking about hiring me. He's beating me over the head about what he called pro-life, and I called, even back then, reproductive rights. And I was like, I don't get it. You're pro-life, but you're pro-death penalty. So like once you're out of the womb, it's like all bets are off. He changed. Why? Because it's logically inconsistent. That's very rare in politics. So what happened during the pandemic was you had these people who were changing information scientifically, but they were living in a political environment where you can't do that. So they started to get quiet about things when they should have been loud. The biggest example is when they went from the touch to aerosolized, they did not tell us the way they should have, because they didn't want to own a mistake because they knew it would affect people's trust and their credibility. But I argued at the time, it'll be just the opposite. You're not politicians. And every problem after that was about guesswork at the best scenario in a new situation that they had never handled before. Separation, no separation. When not. When, it was all, well, we don't really know. I don't know. I know that it's better that if we're all sick, we should probably be not too close to each other if we don't want to spread it. But how and when and why and for how long, those were political determinations that should have been all Trump or his people, all Biden or his people. I don't want to see any white coat. You can tell me that you based it off what they just told you about this new thing. Okay, but what are you telling me? I elected you. I didn't elect these people. And political things are going to be held to political tests and standards. And we got the two mixed here. So you'll see tons of clips. Oh, they told you this, and then they told you that. That's because they're looking at, look, it used to be the world is flat. Then it's round, It used to be that, a lot of Christians believe that the earth is like, a fraction as old as it really is, and that humanity is only a fraction. Depends. What do you want to base it off? Feel or fact? And that was the confusion that happened during that. And I told Dr. Fauci personally and publicly multiple times, you got to get yourself out of that position. Tony, you do not belong making political, and he would say, I'm not making political, but that's how it's playing.
It seemed like he loved the limelight.
That's how it's being used. Look, I've known him most of my adult life, okay? He was close to my father, and very helpful to my father during the AIDS and look, I'll tell you, we lived it then too. Oh, it's a gay disease. This is what you get for being gay. They used to call AIDS and HIV GRID because they wanted to tie it to gay people. And Tony Fauci was one of the early ones saying this is not sexuality based. It's transmission based. That is, fluid to fluid, but also this, right? So I know him. Tony Fauci's a good man who does things for the right reason. Is he fallible? Of course. He felt that he was doing the right thing, and he had a lot of people in power from 2 administrations trying to push him to the front because it was better for them. He gave them cover. And I don't believe that our leaders should take cover when it's time to lead. And I think Biden did it wrong, and I think Trump did it wrong.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.